Welcome everyone, you're listening to Nephology, the podcast dedicated to crypto, accounting, business, finance and much, much more. I'm Joe David, the founder of Nephos Group and Miner. Please note that all conversations recorded are professional opinions, and if you'd like to know more or gain support, please reach out to the team directly. Now on to the next episode. Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Nephology podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by James today. James, how are you?
Yeah, really good, Joe. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. I guess first of all, do you want to tell people a bit about you, who you are, where you've come from, what you do?
Yeah, so I'm an entrepreneur. I moved to Dubai.
I hate that word, by the way.
Entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, I just think it's a bit overused, don't you?
I think entrepreneurs solve significant problems.
Oh, nice.
And that's what I do.
I like that. Anyway, sorry.
So I'm an entrepreneur. I moved here 2 years ago. I basically, in terms of like my professional or entrepreneurial experience, I graduated in 2020, so only 4 years ago, but it was during the COVID year. I basically ended up creating a international charity in the UK. Did some really, really cool things. Was speaking on BBC, got into the Great British Entrepreneur Final Awards. Tell them that you don't like the title of that. And I did that. And then I went into management consulting. I hated it because it was so hierarchical. So started working on an edtech startup whilst working in sales because it gave me enough time to kind of do that. EdTech startup went nowhere. I didn't really put my all into it, if I'm being honest. And then I was kind of sat in London and I thought, what I'm doing, I'm one step forward, two steps back from where I want to be in life. So I basically moved to Dubai.
What triggered that? Sorry to jump in, but what triggered that move from London to Dubai?
So it was an interesting one, right? I'd never ever thought really of Dubai. I'd heard of it. It was actually an interesting one. So obviously COVID happened. It was 2020. I was sitting in London, and then I graduated in 2020, as I mentioned. But because it was COVID, our graduation happened in 2022, so 2 years later. Yeah. So I went in March of 2022. I went to graduation, and I bumped into someone that I knew from uni, and actually, me and him were meant to go to Arizona State University together in third year.
Okay.
But I ended up not going. Because I was a bit of a stupid reason. I was with my girlfriend at the time, and we were quite new. And I was like, okay, I don't want to go to Arizona Uni, which I did think was quite a big missed opportunity because I never went traveling. All my brothers and sisters went on gap years.
Okay.
And because I actually had to repeat the year at school because I was messing around for various different reasons. I did
that too, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I basically never got the chance to go on a gap year. Didn't go to Arizona Uni. And then I met this guy. And this was, again, when I was like kind of thinking already that I was one step forward, two steps back. And I was like, oh, what are you doing now? He was like, oh, I moved to Dubai after Arizona. And I was like, interesting. And he started telling me about like the golden visa and whatever. And so I went back from graduation. I was sitting in my house in London in April, and I was just feeling like, I haven't been traveling. I didn't go to Arizona. I'm just sitting where I don't want to be. I know I want to be an entrepreneur because I was previously. And when I created the charity, it was COVID, right? I was working 16, 17 hours a day, but I was loving it. I was loving every second. No money. I didn't care about the money. I was just loving building and creating something. And so I thought, why don't I move to Dubai? Because I can earn some money. It's sunny. And surround myself with the people that will allow me to achieve what I want to achieve. That kind of triggered it. And then I moved to Dubai, started working at the Seamless event, which is the region's largest, one of the world's largest fintech payment and banking and e-commerce events. But I straight away started kind of putting my feelers out and understanding what projects I could get involved in. So I start myself. I realized that there was a big opportunity for a job board that was basically, there's a big problem globally, right? But I think especially in Dubai that it's very, very hard. It's very messy trying to get a job. If you as a employer put a job out there, you'll get thousands of applicants. So I started thinking, how can we kind of make that process better? And that's something that I started working on from 2023, whilst also getting involved in YP Club, meeting Cameron, and just got on full time as of 5 months ago on both the businesses. And here we are. So
yeah, no, cool. And we'll touch on those two businesses in a sec, but I totally agree. You know, as someone that's hired in the UK and hired or tried to hire or considered hiring in the UAE, it is a very different market, and it's a very different the response. Like in the UK, we kind of have a very select market. When we go to market, we know what we're going to get. We get those similar sorts of people. It's just whether they're a good fit or not most of the time. Here it's you get 10,000 people and you've got to sift through 10,000 people and understand which ones good, bad, actually got the qualifications you've asked for, whatever. So I can relate to that. So so maybe we can just touch then on we had Cam on the last season of the podcast, but maybe you can just touch briefly, because YP, especially for me, I first got involved with YP at the DYP stage, and we joked about that this morning, that it is still something that you guys are sometimes known as, if you like, which was Dubai Young Professionals. And at that point, I was kind of umming and ahhing, and we had quite a lot of conversations, didn't we, before I kind of came on more officially, and around what YP was and what it was about. So maybe just give us a little bit of what it started as, and then what you're achieving now.
YP was founded by Cam, who's the CEO, in early 2022, as a kind of modern alternative for networking. There was a lot of young, ambitious professionals and entrepreneurs like ourselves moving here, but there was a missing piece, which was the connection element. If you looked at the current networking solutions, they were not fit for purpose. They were either mass market and run very poorly, had a low quality of person who attended lots of job seekers and things like that, and no continuity strategy. Or you had the ones which were based on nationality, like the British business group, the Malaysian business group, the Filipino business group. Average age was about 50, 55, 60. So there was a gap in the market for this, and we started running an event once a month in a premium venue in DIFC. Every month more and more people came. I think about 6-7 months after Cam started running it, that's when I met him. I kind of said, oh, this is got legs, this is really cool what you're doing. Towards the end of 2022 or the very beginning of 2023, that's when I came on and started getting involved properly. And then basically last year in April, we said, okay, well, this has got a lot of traction, let's launch memberships. It went slowly at first, and then we kind of crept up towards the 500 member by the end of last year. In terms of what we actually do, though, it's I would say it's business and social, which is sometimes quite hard, because it'd be very easy for us to be like a BNI and say, oh, let's just go and do business, and everyone pitches, or oh, let's just be a piss up, let's just go out and have a few beers.
We've had
right?
that conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think the way we think of it is this: we run a lot of events, right? Like way more. Everyone's always surprised when I say how many events we run. We run about 8 to 10 a month in Dubai alone, Abu Dhabi and Riyadh, like 2 or 3 or 4 a month at the moment, but obviously we just kind of scaled there actually in April, with about 60 members in each place. But we will be scaling Abu Dhabi and Riyadh up to that by the end of the year. So we're looking at doing in between 20 and 30 events every single month by the end of the year, right? But these events are very varied. There are some which are more business focused. There are some which are more social focused. We kind of do like larger networking socials where people can relax and just meet each other. We'll do then panel discussions that bring in really inspiring speakers and like VCs and people who have achieved a lot of success in some way or another. And we'll do fireside chats as well. And then we do workshops and presentations which are a bit more actionable, like the ones you deliver, like Entrepreneurs Finance Fundamentals, or how to integrate crypto into your business. And then we'll have some more miscellaneous fun events, like we've done a cocktail making masterclass, we've done bowling, we've done darts, we've done a yacht event, and we've done a black tie event. But really, I think what we're trying to do at its core is enrich people's lives. Like, I've always had this as a philosophy, and me and the team were speaking about it recently, and I know we all agree it. What is the reason that everyone wants to build a 8, 9, 10 figure business? Is to have a holistically wealthy life. You want to have good experiences with the people that you love and care.
Yeah, or important to you.
And you don't you want to enjoy your life as well, right? And so what we do is we bring in a vetted community, obviously because it's application only, of high quality people into high quality experiences where they enjoy themselves. And business is often a byproduct of that, or it can be a direct byproduct. And that's one of the reasons why actually we launched the app. The app has basically allowed us to really, really set us apart from anything else that's happened in the region, and I think globally as far as we can take it, because it basically serves as like a private LinkedIn. Previously, we were working on WhatsApp. On WhatsApp, you just see a name and a number. It's really not efficient for community
Sometimes you don't
building.
even see a name either.
Yeah, exactly. Often you just see a number.
Yeah, if they haven't.
Maybe a squiggle.
Yeah, yeah.
And So we said, we want to take this internationally and globally and just as far as we can, right? But we can't just continue to do that on the WhatsApp chat. So the app was really important for that because it allows you to see who's in the community, what they're an expert at, what their business is, who they're looking to meet. And so if you, as well as doing the social side, if you are here for business, as often a lot of the entrepreneurs are, you've now got instant access to a vetted community across the region. If you've just officially moved to Dubai, right? Like last year, obviously you've been doing business here for a while. But there's a lot of people kind of similar stage to you who are now saying, okay, how do we go into Abu Dhabi? How do we go into Riyadh? Get a slice of what's going on in there, right? And it can be hard if you've moved here to then go and try and replicate all the relationships. But we're saying, no, join us. You've got instant access to that vetted community. So,
and I think what's interesting as well is, and I think I screenshotted it and sent it to you. You've got that curated match, which is obviously is going to take time to build, right? It's got to get kind of practice and before it gets perfect. But I screenshotted to you, you know, that curated match. Okay, I've already met the person that it created, but it was a crypto exchange called Mina, who we're hoping to get on the podcast, who I was really keen to speak to. Now, it just happened that you and I had spoken before and you'd introduced me directly. But the point is, actually, that curated
it's done my job for me then.
It did a very good match. Yeah, it did a very good match, assuming it didn't know that we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
We didn't already know each other. And I guess, actually, you could argue that's down to me. If I had kind of friend requested him on the app, maybe it wouldn't have, maybe it would have known at that point that we knew each other. Anyway, so I think even now that's showing that it's starting to work. One person said to me when I moved here as well, the best way to get to know people, from a business or social perspective, is to join a members club. And some of those can be old, stuffy members clubs, whereas for you guys, I think you're trying to do that differently. You're trying 100%. To bring both sides of the fence here. You're trying to bring an element of that real professional nature, but also an element of that fun, kind of social get together as well, which I think it must be super hard trying to balance those two things.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, it would be very easy for us to go in one direction, but I think it's down to the variety. So, and we actually had this conversation in the office yesterday. Like, we're not we had a strategy day yesterday as a team, and then we had a beer for the first time as a team, I think this year, in this like German beer garden. We were like, oh, we could do an event.
Did you watch the football?
No, we actually got kicked out just before, but I think had a lot of Germans coming in to watch it.
I was going to say, German beer garden with Germany playing last night.
But yeah, I think that's why they had needed us out by 4. But we said, like, for example, in October we could do like an Oktoberfest theme event. And previously we were a bit worried about doing events like that because we didn't just want to get seen as like, oh, it's go there and booze. But now I think we've really dialed in on the panel discussions, on the fireside chats, on the quality of the workshops and the presentations, what the topics are. And we're really doing enough on the business side and on the learning side to also allow us to do some more like kind of fun, casual events. Because we don't just want to be purely for business. It is about the enrichment of life. Right?
But I think that's the key thing, right? Is you don't just want to be just about business. But if people do, we've had this conversation all the time. I'm boring, right? I don't drink. I've got 2 young kids. I want to spend the spare time, which is not much of it. The spare time I do have, I want to spend with the family. For me, the social events are like, I'm not as interested, right? So we've had this conversation a lot, and I'm super interested, like the Mamo Pay event you did. And I'm super interested in these entrepreneurial stories and things like that. Do you think from the outside looking in, because I look at other communities, I won't name them, and from the outside looking in, I think, oh, they're just going and having a good time, because that's what Instagram looks good, is when you see people out having a drink. Do you think on the outside looking in, from the inside definitely, but on the outside, do you think people realize the level of what you guys are doing, or is that still something you need to work on?
100%. I mean, it's something we talk about all the time, because obviously, we put out a lot of content, right? And this kind of, and going back to what you said earlier about why we were DYP, like, we did want to get more serious about facilitating business whilst also not losing that USP of really having very fun, high quality events. But yeah, 100%. And I mean, it just comes down to the more events of this kind of caliber we do, the more people will start to understand from the outside that's what we do. Because we had someone the other day who I think literally, or a current member referred someone one who said, "Oh, I thought it was just for like socializing and having fun," but then they replied and said, "Oh no, they've got like panel discussions, this, that, and the other." But I think that will become very, very clear, especially the more and more people that we get inside, right? And also we did this exercise of this week of planning out the events calendar till the end of the year. And we've made sure that every single city has like a fireside chat or a panel discussion once a month, as well as obviously the partner events in there. And so I think we're hoping to have all of the events planned and booked in with the venues and the partners all agreed within the next few weeks. And then anytime somebody goes to the website, you'll be able to see, okay, the full everything that I've just said in terms of the scope of what events we run.
All the,
exactly.
And you know one thing that I think is super important as well is that you know, for us, you know, we're in Dubai, we work with Dubai-based companies, but there's, from our crypto side, for example, there's a lot of those in Abu Dhabi, ADGM, etc. And you guys have then facilitated the opportunity for us as a business by saying, do you guys want to host an event in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah.
Like if we had tried to host our own event in Abu Dhabi, it would have been super difficult. It probably wouldn't have even got off the ground. But we're now able to potentially put our services out to a whole new market because of the relationships you guys have built as well. So I think that's super important. And that doesn't just mean business, on the social side as well. People can travel to Abu Dhabi and go to social events if they want to meet new people and stuff. So I think that's really, really important. So all of that sounds crazy, so much to do, not sure how you plan it all. And then, because I know you very well in true James fashion, that's not enough, right? Yeah. So you've then got Startly as well. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what Startly is and why you started that.
Yeah, so I guess it was just from... It kind of developed as I went. Like the first thing I noticed when I moved here was that there was obviously the recruitment model here seemed kind of flawed, as we said earlier, with loads and hundreds, thousands of people applying to a particular role that they're not relevant for. But at the same time, I also noticed that there wasn't a particular platform that was aimed at tech companies. Like you've got them all across the UK and the US. And so I wanted to create a marketplace job platform that did that. But the kind of the hypothesis or the deeper problem that I was trying to solve is, how do you take those 1,000 people down to 3 to 5 you actually want to spend your time looking at? And I firmly believe that with technology developing the way it is, and with AI and everything that we people and lots of companies, if not just us, will be able to do that. And so we basically created Startly in its infancy. It was a platform where people can enter in their preferences. So for example, years of experience, what job role they're looking for, what their minimum salary expectation is, what their skills are if it's a tech role. And those are essential criteria. And then some non-essential criteria, such as what industries are you most interested in, company size, things like that, right? And basically it only shows you the matches in a one-by-one user interface, almost akin to a dating app. So it stops people from basically spamming like they do on LinkedIn, like easy apply. You actually have to think about what your preferences are, and you only get shown roles like that. So basically that weeds out like a lot of people. That weeds out maybe like 50% or so. But then I guess to be honest with you, this year, the opportunity that I've realized has grown massively because of the developments in AI, right? And so now what we're in the process of doing, and what I've been doing this year, is developing AI models that allow us to screen CVs and screen candidates. Yeah. And I think we're starting to get somewhere with that quite well. So basically what I want from Startly is a process. Like, I'm not a tech person. I've become quite familiar with prompt engineering, but I love thinking about design and user experience. I remember this one book that I read on user experience and product design. You don't even need to read the book. It's just called Don't Make Me Think, right? And I know you're someone that appreciates good user experience because you're like, oh, like, you'll always point out if something like is tricky or makes you think, right?
I mean, you messaged me the other day, I think, and your words were, this is what I'm thinking, and I'm keen to get your feedback because you're always giving me feedback. In other words, you always moan about stuff.
Yeah, but it's true, right? The best user experience is one which is somebody doesn't have to do an effort. So
and that's that's the thing, right? The reason I'm difficult about these things is because I am super busy, and I don't mean that in look at me, I'm so busy, but I am busy, and that's whether that's busy. Working, whether that's busy with the kids or whether that's actually some time that I want to just chill and watch the football or whatever because I've been working God knows what. everything I use, I want it to be super simple and super easy and because I want to just be able to go bam, 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 done. And that's why when the first iteration of the app came out, I said, well, this doesn't quite fit. And this, so I think that's the key, especially in the job market, is people either are super busy as an employer or as a potential employee, they're trying to do it around another job, or so you do need to make that user experience like super, super simple, I think.
100%. And I mean, this is it for me, right? This is the vision. How can you, as an employer or a hiring manager, upload a job description and have a 3 to 5 minute conversation with an AI agent where you say, this is the essential criteria, this is the prioritized evaluation criteria, this is the personality that we're looking for, and do nothing else.
And for clarity here, this is as if we're having a voice conversation. This is a voice conversation with an AI agent that you guys have kind of built, if you like.
Exactly. So the idea is, how can you upload that job description, have a conversation with the AI model called Starla that we've developed that will ask you conversations just like I would if I was recruiting for you, right? Have conversations and say, what's the prioritized evaluation criteria? What is the essential criteria? You don't want to see anyone if they don't have this. What is the personality you're looking for? And then a few days or maximum a week later, you just receive in your inbox or whatever medium is easiest for you. It could be on WhatsApp. The top 5 candidates with a score and a rationale for why they're the top 5, right? And so that's basically the outcome from the employer's perspective. I want it to be as easy as possible, right? Because realistically, I can make the platform as good as possible, but you just want the outcome. You won't want to have to go into a new platform, learn how to use it, post a role. And I can make that as easy as possible. But the gold standard is what I just explained. Can you just literally drag and drop a CV and then have that conversation and receive that? And one thing that was really interesting, I was talking with Zach, one of my business partners, a few weeks ago about the design. And I was talking about this like application management system, like a Trello board where you could have like applied, next round interview. And he just said to me, he was like, why are you designing that? And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, they need to track the applicants. And he was like, but I thought the whole USP of your product was that you don't have 50 people to track. And that just, again, it made me, because I was already thinking like, oh, we should just be sending the people. But it's like questions like that make you think, all of these job boards that have like loads of application tracking system, that indicates to me that they're doing it wrong. If you have 50 candidates to manage yourself, that's bad. You're right. You're right. You just want the 3 to 5 that you can quickly read. Oh, that's a summary. Yeah, actually, I do really agree with that. Let me take 3 of them to the next round.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It should be a case of you get the 5, 3 of them go to the interview, you potentially offer one of them the job. It should be as simple as that. There's no reason why that can't happen. So I guess there's 2 sides here. So the first side for me is, this is on the human elements. There's 2 sides on this, I think. So the first side is, my first thought was, well, surely you need an element of human element or whatever, right? Because it's all very well having these hard skills, but there's also this human piece around, well, okay, this person might not have this, but they've got this, which you can't see on a screen, blah, 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 blah. So I appreciate some of that will come at the interview stage. But point 2 then to that was then like, well, actually, it also takes away the human element, which is where somebody can sell you the dream, where somebody, if I'm a recruitment agent and I phone around 50 people to try and find 5, and then I talk to this guy and they haven't quite got the experience, but they've got the gift of the gab, and they sell me the dream that they can be the right person. My human brain goes, push them through because they were nice, and this doesn't do that. So you've got 2 sides.
It does.
Oh, okay.
It does, because, and this is why I realized how big the opportunity was, because as soon as they released that ChatGPT model, I spent hours, the new 4.0 with the voice feature, I was looking at it and I was seeing how it can understand sarcasm and different personality traits, and that's when I was like, oh crap, we need to integrate this now. Something. Because as soon as you can understand sarcasm, as soon as you can understand personality traits, as soon as you can understand enthusiasm, all of these things, that is exactly what happens in a first round interview, right? And so I've been training it to be very adept at understanding people's personality traits. And we're still, again, I'm iterating the model. And one thing is sometimes it's a bit too positive about people, whereas I'm trying to be a bit more like a bit more cynical. Like you'd be like, actually, no, that person wasn't good because of that. Like, and so that's one bit that I'm still training. And Yeah, but look, it can definitely understand personality traits or enthusiasm, and we're only just at we're only just at the beginning, so it's only going to get more adept at doing that.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it's all it is it's a statistical model of probability, right? So if I'm talking like this and really, really enthusiastic, the model's just trained to go, oh, that's like 99.9% likely that that's enthusiastic. Whereas if I speak like this and go really sad, then it's going to know that that's most likely.
Which isn't actually, I mean, it is obviously new. Depends what we class as new here.
Yeah.
But like, I use Fireflies as an AI note taker. And when I go into the kind of back end, if you like, of that, it tells me that conversation was like 50% positive, 20% negative, and 30% neutral, or whatever. Right now, that's a basic element, but or it says, so and so spoke most of the time and they were really positive, or so and so spoke most of the time. They were, so. What's super, as I say that and you answer that, you're right, because there's already that basic element. And then now they've just, with 4.0 or 4.0, whatever they've called it, they've improved it. They've, what's the word? Kind of made it more natural.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting about that is you see all these flashy things like, OpenAI coming out and going, this is our amazing new tool. And here's an example of us using it. And everyone's like, yeah, it's great. And Apple do the same, and Samsung do the same. And then you get the product and you go, well, I've never used it in that way, and it doesn't work in that way. Do you find with ChatGPT and this new kind of model that actually what they presented on their kind of flashy presentation, you're finding actually it is able to do? It is, do you know what I mean? It is as good as they say it is, type thing.
Yeah, and like in the sense that it needs a lot of direction. I find like when you're building custom GPTs and then integrating them with APIs, like you do it. I think this is the thing, and I saw in a video the other day. I can't remember who was saying, but when you realize that AI is only just at like this, if you think about it as an evolution, it's only at like the single-celled organism. Like ChatGPT is like a single-celled organism. In a few years' time, we're going to be at like some crazy evolution in terms of where it can go. And so right now, it does need a lot of
Prompting.
Well, yeah, and testing and iterating, because obviously it's not just, you can't just tell it what to do and it does it perfectly, right? I gave you the example before we spoke about a critical element of Startly is the CV matching. Now, what I'd done previously was create this scoring mechanism that looks at like, what is their years of experience? What is their years of relevant experience? What are their like skill sets and expertise? What are their achievements and what's their education? Maybe, for example, 25 for years of experience, 25 for out like scoring wise, you a total of 100. You could have 25 for years of experience, 25 for relevant like job roles, 10 for achievements, whatever. I basically made it like that. But then what I found was that when I was iterating the model and sending it to people, they were like, no, it scored these people that didn't even meet the essential criteria. So they should have got a 0 in my mind. And that was a really good bit of insight. So then I built it into the model to say it has to meet the essential criteria first. But because I'd given it this scoring system ahead of time, it prioritized that because it was more quantitative. So what I then did was make 2 models. The first one that just looks at the essential criteria. It doesn't even have the job description. It just looks at a CV and says does this pass the essential criteria? If yes, then it goes through to the next round where the scoring happens. So I think the models are very, very capable and very good, but you can't just expect it to do everything you want. And going back to what you were saying with regards to like Apple and everything, it's funny because when they release stuff, it's very general, so they don't give you a direction of where to use it. And I think that's where companies like Startly and all the companies utilizing AI can come in, because they're saying, let's take this great tech.
Here's a real world example.
Let's solve this very specific problem in a very specific way. And that's what's brilliant. Whereas if you like, for example, you brought it up the other day, you just got up the voice thing and started asking anything. It's just kind of like Siri when it came out. People would be like, oh, look at this. And you'd be like, what's the weather today? And then you'd be like, anyway, what am I doing next? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But that's always been my issue, right? And I must admit the ChatGPT desktop app on the Mac has opened up new doors for me, because what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to, pick up my phone or whatever and be like, right, where have I got to go now? What's my next meeting? And I know you can do that with Siri and stuff, but it never really worked properly. It never really kind of, did what you needed it to do. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is what I want is it to be integrated in my daily life. And you call it like that kind of virtual assistant or whatever, but that actually is helpful. And I just haven't found it at the moment to be kind of, I guess, good enough to do that. The thing I do like is that action button on the phone and being able to hold that down and talk to ChatGPT, because it is a better version of Siri in a sense of like, okay, it's not perfect, but it is better. But I think the key that you've hit is, which is, I think a lot of people forget, and we talked about that this earlier with when we were coming up with ideas for the podcast and stuff, is the prompt is key. How much you talk to it and you tell it and how much context you give it and stuff. You know, if I just say to it, I'm speaking to James, give me some podcast topics. He runs YP and Startly. They're not going to be as relevant as if I say, you know, James is, you know, however old, he's done this, he's done that. We know each other well. You know, the more you prompt it, the more accurate or kind of like relevant information you're going to get, right? And I think that's where people fall down at the moment, is they go, cool, ChatGPT, do this. Yeah. And it doesn't do it. Yeah. And they go, well, I thought you were amazing, and you did everything that I wanted. So, and I think that's where and
my girlfriend does that a lot. Okay. Romy's always saying, this is rubbish. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's amazing. And I'm like, why am I getting defensive over ChatGPT? No, 100%.
But that's because you have gone through that process. Yeah. You've gone, look, I'm going to, like, ChatGPT might as well be a friend of yours now. The amount of like stuff you work with and the amount of like effort and innovation you put into it. Yeah. But people just want it to work out the box.
It's 100% correct. And it is all about the prompts and the inputs, and you're limited by those things inherently, right? But they can, as you say, they can kind of be your friend, and they can make the output really, really good. And this is exactly one of the reasons why I realized it was critical for the AI to have a conversation with the hiring manager, because there is always insight that is not on the job description that is critical for finding the right hire, such as the prioritized evaluation criteria, right? If you put the prioritized evaluation criteria on the job description, people would just lie to get around it, right? And so that's
what LinkedIn does.
Exactly. So that's for an example of where the input needs to be kind of more than just say, oh, match this job description to this CV. I say, after it passes the first round, match the job description to the CV, but also take into account this data from the hiring manager call to make sure that it aligns.
And also, I think, read the sentiment. You know, if the hiring manager kind of cool, and like you say, the way they speak, and then they talk about, I don't know, they talk about personal skills, and they get really kind of like, I really want these really nice personal skills, and then they talk about, I don't know, I don't even know, but like something else, and you can tell that their voice is a little bit less kind of enthusiastic about that point. It's not just the whole conversation, it's taking those nuggets out as well and going, do you know what, they were super positive and enthusiastic about this part of the role. They were less enthusiastic about 100%. This part, so I'll prioritize this part over this part. That's also, I think, is part of that process. So just on that point then, because like, people will hate me for saying this, right? But I quite like the idea of it being able to listen to me all day, right? And at the end of the day, send me and Gio, this is what happened today. These are some of the things that you need to do. I haven't seen that you've actioned these things. You need to go and action them.
Would you not like it to action them for you?
Well, yeah. But my point with that is, people would say, there's no way I want an AI tool listen to me all day. Which I do understand, and I appreciate that the words I'm saying, I haven't thought about the context of that. But it's really interesting, I think, the way it can use what you're saying and actually act on that, or you know, kind of move things forward based on that. But how does that, on that point of it listening, and you know, how, you're obviously super bullish about it, but how do you, is there any concerns you've got around AI, what it's going to end up doing? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
I spend a lot of time thinking and talking about this, because I find it so crazy, and I'm not a machine learning expert, but I've just been consuming over the last year so much content around it, right? And I think it's just crazy, because it's the first time in history. Like, some people go, oh, it's just like when the internet came out. Oh, it's just like when the steam engine was made. It's not. This is a self-learning technology, which means that the iteration times are so rapid, right? It learns from its own mistakes and improves itself.
But there's also an argument then that we don't know what it's learning, in a sense of, because it can learn things that we aren't. So like you say, the Industrial Revolution or the internet age or whatever, it only developed based on human interaction. Humans saying, this doesn't work, so we're going to make it do this. AI does do that, obviously, but AI can also learn itself. So is that not scary, that it can learn
itself, which is great because it can build something bigger, but does that not then make it a scary thing because we don't know what it might learn and therefore what it might, and I'm not saying robots are going to come and kill us, but do you know what I mean? Like, is it?
No, 100%. And I mean, like, when with AGI and when with what OpenAI is trying to achieve with getting a AI that can do exactly what humans can do and basically be conscious or a singularity, like, obviously we have no clue what that could mean, right? That could be very, very scary if it can self-learn and make decisions, right? But yeah, I think we're probably a while away from that, based on what I've been kind of looking at and reading.
That's quite interesting.
I think what I am very confused about is what is going to happen to humans in a capitalist society. And for example, I've been saying, and my girlfriend tells me to stop talking about it, but I have been saying a lot recently, like, I genuinely believe in the next 5 to 10 years, a lot of people will be without a job. Now, there is a school of thinking where actually AI is going to create loads and loads of productivity, and so loads more jobs than there are. But there's obviously a lot of people who are saying, oh, it could take people out of a job. And because I'm like, for example, as soon as you can get, like we've said, single-celled organism, we're at the very earliest stage. If you can get a conversational AI that can have a conversation with you and can understand personality, can understand sarcasm, can be flirty, can do basically everything that a human can do in conversation, and we're just at the very beginning, and it's a self-learning technology that improves faster than anything in history, that is incredibly scary. And I've been saying that to my girlfriend. She's like, no, you're wrong. She came back last week and told me that in their office, they've just implemented this new thing where when people are on sales calls, there's a bot on the screen that tells them what question they should ask next, right? And I said, that is exactly the beginning of it. Because if the conversation, if you don't have to think about what the conversation is, then the next stage is,
it doesn't need you to have a conversation.
It doesn't need you to have a conversation. And then probably the next stage will be this. We've already got stuff that can mimic your voice from like a 5-minute conversation. Probably, I think it's like a 20-second or 10-second clip of your voice, mimic your voice. So then the next stage is, oh, well, what if something can mimic your voice and be just sound exactly like you, and it can do the sales call better than you because you're actually listening to it anyway, then why would you not just turn your camera off and let it do it for you? Or even, as you might have seen with who was it? Peter Thiel or somebody, Reid Hoffman, having the conversation. He had a conversation with his AI deepfake, and you couldn't tell the two apart. And that technology already exists, and we're right at the beginning. So my question is, when companies realize, oh, we can actually just use somebody's voice, then they'll be like, oh, what's the inherent value in somebody's voice itself? There's not. Why don't we just let the AI do the selling, because it sounds very human? And one of the biggest costs to companies, and you'll know this, is humans, right?
100%. But I still think, and this is, you know, as a business owner, maybe my mind would be different if I had the choice between the two. I still think that there are certain jobs within our business, and already there are things that we are automating, even on a basic level. You know, there are ways that, you know, and this is super basic, that, you know, you've got a receipt for coffee. We know that you go to a certain coffee shop before work every day. When you upload that receipt, it automatically allocates it to the right place in the accounts, and it automatically publishes it through to the accounting software, and we don't need to do anything. We know that you paid for it on your Amex because it says Amex on there, so we mark it as paid to your Amex. So super easy, and I appreciate that's simple, right? So there's things like that, yeah, absolutely we want to automate that, you know, that process. Absolutely, we don't want our team, where possible, doing kind of meaningless, valueless tasks. But I still think there's well, I mean, obviously at the moment, but I don't see this changing anytime soon personally. Humans want humans. So whilst I agree that there may be elements of roles, a sales role, which I would say in an element isn't adding value, but if a computer can do it instead, right? But in our world, for example, people say accountants won't exist because AI will do it for them. Well, no, AI will do the shit tasks that people don't want to do or don't have value. I still think that you and I, as a business owner and an accountant, you still want me. You don't want AI that doesn't really. Do you see what I mean?
But the issue becomes, and because I've said this as well, I think that management roles will be one of the last to go, because management involves, you know, I said it was about inputs. Management has a lot of contextual inputs to
Yeah.
where we should allocate these resources and where we should make those decisions. But I think it will be very slow for AI to do. Whereas you look at analysts in consultancies or the lower levels, right? These are the people doing the tasks which are more automatable. And so,
But then, as a human race, right?
yeah,
If we're effectively saying that this tool over time will replace roles as we go, as a human race, do we not want to say, well, actually, we don't want to do that?
Well, but this is my question, and this is why I said to you right at the beginning, I don't see it working with capitalism, because under capitalism, the goal is profit, right?
Yeah.
And so there is no value placed on there's no inherent value placed on humans being in the workforce. If you can automate something with an AI agent and it reduces the cost in a competitive environment where everyone is chasing for a slice of each other's revenue and profit, that is what will be done. And you can't say to companies, oh, you have to hire humans, because that's against capitalism. That's not a free market then, right?
Agreed. But the more you do that, the more you then bring that. So let's say you've got 5 levels of staff, for example, and you go, well, we'll just do level 1.
Yeah.
And then once you've done level 1, you go, well, we'll just do level 2.
Yeah.
By the time you've done level 3, you can't stop it doing level 4. And if you're level 4 or level 5, all of a sudden you've created something that then takes you away. And now capitalism not is dead, but what's the point in even having a system if nobody is working because AI does everything?
Well, but
it doesn't. Yeah. But at what point do you stop that? At what point do you say this is too much?
Well, I don't know. These are the whole question marks, right? But if you've got someone who, for example, right now can create an AI platform that can effectively have conversations with people, who's got no technical background, who just graduated from university 4 years ago, and we're at the very beginning of this AI revolution, then imagine what people who are incredibly like geniuses in tech will be able to do in 10 years, right?
Well, imagine what they can do now.
Yeah.
Like, you know. But so I guess my point there is, should we not stop it now? Before it gets out of control? You know, should we not actually? Because even Elon Musk came out last year and was like, we should slow this down a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, is that not worrying that, you know, we're building this?
I think it's incredibly worrying. And the other thing is that the people in government on like, we're going to be run by technocrats in a sense, right? Because the people in government just don't really understand it that well. And it's very hard to legislate something that they don't fully understand. And then you've got the flip side of it, where obviously we are a capitalist society, and the 2 biggest companies in the world right now are Nvidia, as of 2 days ago, Nvidia and Microsoft. And Microsoft obviously owns 49% of OpenAI. So they're AI companies. And obviously in a capitalist society that values that and values economic output, what they're going to suddenly say to those companies, oh, you have to slow down. And this is the whole issue. And why it leaves so many question marks. I don't know. Perhaps it would produce so much productivity that there is loads of goals. But at the same time, if in the next few years we get to AI agents talking to AI agents, just allocating resources extremely effectively, more so than a human could comprehend, then at that point it's like capitalism just doesn't work, because what are we all
doing it for?
And
everyone's sat on the beach doing nothing.
There's a lot of question
AI
marks.
Agents are running around.
100%. I think maybe 3 years is too aggressive, but I think the next like 3 to 10 years, so from 2027 to 2037, I think will be the most interesting and decisive in the whole of the human race's history. And there'll be a lot of philosophical questions asked and a lot of political questions asked as to
a lot of moral questions.
A lot of moral questions. Exactly. Because in a capitalist society, a lot of people derive their meaning from work, right? And like you and I, we love
the value of
their value of their input, right? Which isn't good. Like my brother lives in Cuba, for example, and he just always says like, everyone's just chilled doing
it's a socialist,
not as much,
it's
right?
an extreme socialist society
exactly. And so he's like, and actually he says that everyone just seems a lot more like happy and authentic than they do in Western countries. But it will be a very interesting thing, because obviously we've grown up with like hyper capitalism in the West over the last decades, right? And I think with technology, it's even gone more and more and more. And you see somewhere in Dubai that has an extreme hustle culture. What happens if a large proportion of these people within the next 3 to 10 years suddenly have their jobs stripped away from them, their meaning stripped away from them? It's going to be an extremely interesting period, I think, for the world.
What I find really interesting as well on that, and we'll finish on that particular point, is Like it worries me, and not because I'm worried about computers taking over, right? But this is as a person, I thrive, and I know you do as well. I thrive on entrepreneurship and business and doing work and working hard and achieving and hustling. And that's partly why I came here to Dubai rather than the UK, because I found the UK was lazy and didn't want to do that, right? So it worries me that hustle mentality that I thrive on gets taken away. And then I go, oh shit, well what?
Yeah.
Like my passion, what's driving me is not there. And now what? What do I? Whereas for some people, they go, well, actually, I would rather sit on the beach and do nothing all day. Yeah. So if I can build something that does that, then fantastic. So there is that, I guess, kind of, what's the word? Kind of difference, if you like, in where people are. So it'll be super interesting to see where, and I know I've given some of those kind of negatives and whatever, but I'm super keen on the idea of AI, but yeah, I just think it's a super interesting.
100%. I mean, there's just a lot of question marks, right? Of like what stuff will look like. Like it could be extremely good.
When did OpenAI come out first of all? Like ChatGPT, like properly to the public? January last year, was it?
November 2022.
2022. Okay, so we are 18 months for argument's sake, and look where we are from the day that it came out to the public to where we are now.
Yeah, Apple just integrated it, obviously. It's like the biggest brand in the world.
Drama, but so my point is, like, what's happened in 18 months? Like you just said, you said 10 years.
Yeah, it's getting exponentially faster.
But like 10 years is like insane. If you go back 10 years from today and what we had, and then you go.
My main point with this is, again, I don't think anyone properly understands. No one really even understands economics. Like, people say economics is a science. It's not, because science like learns from itself and then goes back and doesn't repeat it completely. But this enters like a whole new dimension into economics. But basically, no one can fully understand what the ramifications will be. And so for me, the one thing I do know is that I'm trying to future-proof myself as quickly as possible. I want to have made a successful business in the next few years, so that if everything does go very badly, at least I've got some money in the bank.
No,
that's the one thing that I've been saying to a few people.
And that's probably a good message for, as we're coming towards the end now, is probably a good message, if you like, to leave to people is, rather than sitting on your arse and doing nothing and worried about it, get out and achieve something and try and do something and try and build something and, even potentially use this like you are into your business.
Anyone can use it. Just test and iterate, get it in front of people, choose a problem and try and solve it before other people use AI to do it.
No. Well, look, I could sit here all day, as you know, and talk, James. But we talked about some super interesting topics, and I think there'll be a lot of value that come out of that. So if people want to find YP Club, but also Startly, like where, and also yourself, where should they find you? On ChatGPT.
Oh no, yeah, exactly. Hanging out in a data center somewhere. Just add me on LinkedIn, James Augustine, or go to startly.app or youngprofessionals.club. Catch up with what I'm doing.
Perfect. Thanks, James, for coming in. Really good to see you.
Cheers, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah.